In 2006, Adrian Hayes was working as a regional sales director for Airbus in Dubai. A keen mountaineer and climber since his teens, Hayes decided to set himself new goals outside of his sales targets. At the time, however, he had no idea that he'd smash a world record in the process.
The three poles, it's not an official term, it's an adventure term for the three extremes of our planet: top of our world, bottom of our world, the roof of our world. And only 14 people had ever done it before, and I thought, well, let's try and be the 15th to do it.
And the last few steps, the very last few steps. I can hardly breathe. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world.
The whole feeling was just utterly surreal, that I can't believe this, the roof of the world. I wasn't experiencing on polar ices, and a lot of people think it's the same thing. It's all cold, it's the same. It's totally different. The poles is about pulling a sled for hours and hours a day, up to 14, 15 hours a day, with little water, never enough food, always hungry, always cold. Totally different thing from Everest.
90 degrees north, the North Pole. We made it.
Yeah, it was a bit of an anticlimax. There's nothing there. You're looking at a bit of ice cap, the same as it has for the last 2 months. Literally within 4 days of getting back from the North Pole, I was right smack bang into preparing for the South Pole. Antarctica is the windiest continent on Earth. And you get these winds and always in your face, these headwinds up to 100 kilometers an hour are hitting you every single day. And there's no shelter. That's the other thing. You can't get out of this wind.
From the last few hundred meters to the Amazon Scott base, the US base, bottom of the world.
I remember a distinct feeling of sadness. I really didn't want to leave this magical place.
Having conquered the three poles in a little over 19 months, Hayes had become a world record holder and a member of adventure folklore. He had also become a man that was not ready to return to everyday life.
I was actually overcome with quite a lot of sadness at leaving Antarctica after reaching there. Thrust from 3 days from reaching the South Pole, I was in the traffic jams of Dubai, and it was all too much to bear. A lot of press attention, a lot of media interviews, and I literally went into a very, very flat stage, I suppose, bordering on even depression. It lasted for months and months and months of a bit of emptiness. Right, okay, we've got to set for something else. Now let's turn a leaf. Forget the South Pole, forget the North Pole, forget Everest. Let's move on another challenge. Let's take this to another dimension.
Then came Greenland, the largest island in the world. 85% of it covered in ice, with some areas rising to over 3,000 meters above sea level. A land seldom explored in its entirety, it was the perfect place for Hayes to further quench his thirst for adventure. The plan was to take an expedition from the south tip of Greenland to the north, and then travel northwest to Karnak, 3,120 kilometers. Another record. This time, intentional.
Greenland was a totally different thing. We did it to create a record. Yes, it was to get a world record. We wanted to get the longest kite-assisted Arctic expedition in history and get a message to the world on sustainability.
Greenland is the largest contributor to rising sea levels across the world, losing 300 cubic kilometers of ice to water per year. Global warming aside, Hayes was looking to convey a much bigger picture through his endeavours.
Everybody thinks on climate change, global warming, put the trash in the various coloured cans and then you'll be all right, or change the light bulbs, turn the heating down. It's far more than that. It's about the way we live as a society, the way our companies operate, our economies operate, the crisis, the financial crisis and the debt crisis we're going through right now. It's all because countries were living beyond their means. And we're the same. We're the same. We've all been living beyond our means and we can't do that. The Earth cannot support living beyond our means to that extent.
As part of the sustainability message Hayes was aiming to portray, the idea was to travel the enormous distance in Greenland by harnessing the wind via kites. Once you've harnessed the kite, of course. It was fair to say Hayes was out of his comfort zone. Though not all the training was unfamiliar. Hayes' daughter Charlotte more than happy to help out. Meeting his fellow team members in Carcross, Yukon, there was plenty of work to do. Though the kiting may have been somewhat alien to Hayes, one of the members in his team wasn't. For joining him was the leader of his South Pole expedition, Devon McDiarmid.
We got on really well on the South Pole and so we thought, well, let's try and do something together. He's also a great guy for solving problems, and that was one of his huge fortes on the South Pole. When there was a problem, you go to Devon about, how can we fix this thing. He's a bicycle mechanic, expert skier, cross-country skier, adventure racer, and he always had some bit of tape or a bungee cord or something to fix anything that went wrong, which is what happens on these trips, of course. The first